All right, let's look at the art of persuasion. What do you need to know to do and make and create a great persuasive speech? So first off, we have to have room for persuasion. Like something has to be up for debate, or there needs to be several different ideas on a topic for something to be something that is debatable. So in order for something to be something that's up for debate, we need to ask if something is a fact or not, right? So is something true or is it not true? Did something happen or did it not happen? But with this, we have to argue things that we have researchable evidence for. So for example, you can't just say, oh, let's debate whether the earth is flat or not, unless you're coming up on the side of the earth is round, because there's evidence that the earth is round. We're not going to be able to find good peer-reviewed data that the earth is flat because, frankly, it's not true, right? So we need to be able to know if something is true or not, or we need to be on the side of what we know truth is. So if you're going to talk about, did we fake the moon landing? You'd have to talk about the truthful evidence that we have that we did land on the moon, right? So we could argue that we did land on the moon, right? We might argue a fact of, like, we might argue about value. Is it right or wrong to maybe do capital punishment? Is it right or wrong to have abortion? Is it good or bad to start saving money as a college student, right? Should we be more community focused or individualistic, right? So again, this is about value. This is about kind of like more like beliefs. What do we think to be right or what we think to be wrong? A lot of what y'all will argue for is for value. Lastly is policy. And this is how things should happen or get done by an individual, by a group, by a society, or a global level. And it can happen in the past, present, or future. But for an example of that could be the United States should adopt a model of measuring gross national happiness because a government is there to serve its citizens. And happiness is a great way to measure how well it's serving the citizens, right? So we need to get a sense of, is it debatable or not, with fact or value or policy? And you'll notice that there's an extra credit assignment in the persuasive area about what is your area, what are you trying to persuade us about? Is it fact, is it value, or is it policy? And 3 supporting ideas with this, right? Next up, we have different tools that we're going to use for persuasion. There's ethos, which is linked to credibility. There's logos, which is connected to logical appeals. And there's pathos, which is connected to emotional appeals. Ethos is about credibility. This is, again, why should we listen to you? What is it about your character that would make us want to listen to you or believe in you in particular? So one could be your authority. Me, as your public speaking teacher, I have an authority about public speaking because I'm a paid public speaker. I'm also a public speaking teacher, and so I can make appeals to the authority that I have because I am and do these things. But you can also be an authority by doing research on things. Doing research and making sure you're well researched is another thing that you can do to show that you understand your topic and you understand your material. How you present yourself also has something to do with your ethos. This isn't about how you dress, but it's more so about the confidence you display in talking about things. It's about how you feel about things when you say things. Like, can you feel a vocal emotion with you? Can you feel how much you believe in something or not, right? And so appearance plays into this. And then you're also your past experience with something, right? So I am not like, I work out a lot, but I'm not a certified trainer, right? But I can talk about my experiences in working out before. Logos is really like an appeal to logic. It is a rational principle that helps to govern and develop an idea in the universe, as well as an appeal to logic. And it's a way of persuading by persuading to an audience with reason, right? If you do this and do this and do this, generally speaking, you can expect this outcome, right? Or if you do this and do this, but don't do this, you could potentially negatively expect this outcome, right? So it's giving like breadcrumbs and showing how different things work together and how different people can have a expectation of this or that based on the things that they do and the things that they are working through or going through. And then lastly, we've got pathos. Pathos is an emotional appeal. Again, when you think about the dogs on TV commercial, right? And they're sad, big puppy eyes, and you're like, oh, those poor little babies, right? An emotional appeal, right? It's an appeal to the present. Right now, we're talking about appeals to the present when we're looking at trying to get money out to people during a very difficult economic time, right? We tell people about like the cliff or a critical moment that if we don't do something or we don't make drastic change or we don't try to do something in some specific way, how some bad thing could happen or how some good thing might happen. Now, I would highly recommend you go in the slides and watch this embedded video that talks about the science of persuasion. It's only about 12 minutes long, but it gives you a lot of different things that you can start to consider using in your speech to help make strong, motivated appeals to us to help get us to change, right? So some of it is might be on the idea of incremental change, or some might be if you get people to do a small commitment, they'll do a bigger commitment later. But I love this video, and rather than record a video of the video, just click on the video yourself and make sure you use some of those things in your speech. Next thing is I'm gonna teach you about the motivated sequence. That is attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and action. So let's start with this motivated sequence idea. The best attention getter is a form of interaction. Just because you're getting people to actively interact with you means they're on board with you. They're physically doing something with you. They're metaphorically doing something with you. And having an interaction or getting people to be on board with you or all do something with you psychologically puts them on board with you as well. Getting someone's attention is not just about getting their eyes on you. It's about connecting with them and having them on board with you in some specific way. So when you get their attention, you also want to get a sense of what is their buy-in for this as well. The next thing you need to do is create a sense of need. Why do they need you, and you in particular, communicating with them? Because again, you would not communicate them if there wasn't an issue or there wasn't a problem or there wasn't something you could help move them to help them get into a different space, right? So again, you need to communicate what the problem is, what the need is for them, because that is a very critical part of creating a persuasive argument. Step 2 is about making your audience uncomfortable. You gotta be uncomfortable in order to have a problem. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not going to be motivated to move. Like, think about it. Would you get off the couch if you were comfortable? No, you stay on the couch because it's a very comfortable place to be. Like, life gets you to move by putting you in uncomfortable spaces. So we should be even grateful for uncomfortable spaces. I mean, geez, we are all definitely in an uncomfortable space right now. But I'm learning how to use all this technology. I'm learning different ways to reach out and connect with you in an online space. And though it is difficult, it is definitely helping me become a little bit better. Also in this area, you need to create a desire. You need to create a need for them that will not go away without them somehow taking a form of action. This is critically important. The need needs to be deep enough that they choose to move. That is very important. Next is satisfaction. The problem must have a satisfaction step that is provided, and it can be a lot of different solutions. However, what I'm going to tell you is just give us one solution. Just pick one and stick with one because it's easier to remember the one solution. Remember, just one solution that gives your audience the ability to do something and then satisfy the need is the best choice. Because if there's 7 different options, we won't do anything because we won't know what to do, right? Advocate that your audience take one action And that is going to be your future-oriented takeaway. So you'll see this in the rubric that it says something about future-oriented takeaway. And know that you want to advocate something your audience can actually do. Like, don't just have them think of something. Have them actually do something. And I feel like that us figuring out that one thing that we can do, and if you can motivate us to actually do the thing, this is what I'm hoping to get out of you in this assignment specifically. Next one is visualization, right? So now that you've given them a sense of what the satisfaction feels like, what can encourage the person to take more action more than anything else? It's really making real what the benefits to them will be like. So be direct and very specific about how your audience can benefit from doing the thing, right? Create positive visualizations. You can also create some negative visualizations and then contrast those with positive visualizations so they get a sense of what this is and what this looks like and how they'll experience the world by doing this thing, right? Have them visualize what this satisfaction will do to them. And this is a great motivator. Next is action. So that there's a twofold process with action. First, the audience, if they have not done so already, need to be told what you are going to do to solve the problem and what they can do to solve the problem, right? They need to know that you're on board with this and you're doing something about this and how this has shaped or changed your life in the positive in some way. Secondly, you need to tell them about what they can do and how they can do this in order to start to take action on their own. So know this action portion is very, very important. Next is understand that less is more when we're looking at persuasion. If we try to persuade everybody, it's going to be very hard because everybody has really diverse worldviews. They have a lot of different experiences. They have different families and family backgrounds. They come from different cultures. They have different beliefs. They have different values. They have different attitudes, right? So understand it's very, very hard to get people to change their life incredibly quickly, right? It's hard to change your thoughts incredibly quickly. We want to move people to just start doing baby steps rather than trying to do huge leaps. And I can't tell you as a professor how many times I've heard vegans say why you should become vegan. Well, I'm from Texas and I like barbecue. And it's going to be hard to convince me to go from being a meat-eating, barbecue-loving person to vegan. Now, what you could do is talk about how I could use meat substitutes or meat alternatives one day of the week and how it would be better for the environment, how I would be more healthy with it, how it still has plenty of protein, it's still plenty healthy, right? And instead of trying to move me from 1 to 100, instead of trying to move me from 1 to 10 and trying to make me vegetarian, you move me from 1 to 2. You get me to understand what 2 feels like, and I might be more amenable to move to 3 to 4 to 5 because it's easier to move me from 1 to 2 than it is to move me from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. Persuasion is likely to be much more successful when you have a very specific something you're asking us to believe or a very specific something you're asking us to do. So again, going over persuasive structure, I want to see you gain the audience's attention. Make sure your attention getter is appropriate and relevant to your topic as well as to COM 225 as an audience. Make sure that it relates to the purpose of what your speech is. Make sure it's on topic. Make sure it's appropriate for the occasion or the world that we're going through right now, right? Make sure your attention getter is really on point. Great examples of persuasive attention getters might be startling statistics. It might be an anecdote. So you show us a picture of somebody. This is Anna, and this is how Anna looks, right? And this is how Anna looks in your clincher now that she's done all these healthy, wonderful things, right? It might be a quote. As hungry as the orphans in the Oliver song, food, glorious food, right? Like that quote can connect with us. Make sure that you're like starting with the words of the quote first thing. Humor, right? You might decide to use a joke as a good way of getting attention. I'm glad I don't have to hunt for my own food because I don't even know where those sandwiches live, right? Gain our attention in a way that is on point and on directive for your topic. Also, credibility. You need to make sure that you address your research, your time in research. You talk to us in a way that's competent, it's obvious that you've practiced your speech, that you've taken time to speak to us as an audience. Make sure that you express that you care about us and you have a sense of goodwill for us as well. Another thing you want to do is create a sense of common ground with us. You need to create a connection between the speaker and the audience, and you need to create a connection between the topic and the audience, right? You have to know that you know your audience. And the good news is we spent some time together as an audience. Who are these people? Why are they here? What are their challenges? Speak to those things, showing that you know who these people are, and they're more apt to listen to you because you're going to be much more connected to them. Next, make sure you know what your point is. Make sure you know what you want your audience to understand. And remember, make your thesis centered in us as an audience and centered in what you hope to persuade us to do. Does it have logos or ethos appeals or pathos appeals? Does it have all three? It's going to be hard to have all three in your thesis statement. So pick whatever you feel is strongest for this in your speech and then begin to persuade us. Also give us your preview of main points. Give us an expectation of what you are going to fulfill in us with this speech. We will like you because you're going to deliver in all these things, and give us a roadmap to this speech so we can follow along with you in that speech and get a sense of where you're hoping to go and show us what you want us to know. Also, remember, practice those excellent transitions. Give us a little bit of the idea that you talked about before and a little bit of the idea that you're going to in the next, and find one thing that connects those two ideas in an interesting or clever way. And again, you're going to create a sense of goodwill, a sense of connection with the audience, and we are going to like you and better connect with you as well. Remember, clincher is super important. This is the last thought. This is the final words. It is not thank you, because you don't thank people when you give them something. It's not that's all. Like, that's boring. It needs to be something that's tied to your attention getter. It needs to be related to your topic. And it also needs to, at least in some way, remind us of what you want us to do. And with that, I would say the most important thing is check out this video from Taylor Molly in the slides. I love this speech. I think this is an excellent example of something that might get people thinking about stuff. But like, tell me, like, do you think this is persuasive? Do you think it's not persuasive? If you need other examples of good persuasive speeches, check out The Thank You by Randy Posh. Check out this show opener by The Newsroom, or check out this video on students texting and driving. But all these things I think are excellent examples of persuasive speeches that will help you become a much more ready to go and competent and persuasive speaker yourself. And no, I want you to be able to change the world by using your words. One of these days, somebody's going to be like, you know, we're going to have Edgar asking somebody if they want to marry him. We got to feel how Edgar feels when he says, will you marry me? You're going to complete my life, right? When Rachel decides to try to interview for a job and Rachel's like, you really want to hire me because I am going to work my butt off every single day to make these students better people, right? I want to feel how much this matters to you, because I want to know you can talk in a way where people are gonna want to listen to you. Because when your words have the power to shape the world, you have the power to shape my world too. And I get to live in a better world because your words have helped to create that better world for us all. With that, I appreciate your ears and I can't wait to hear your speeches.